There's a kind of person who drains your energy, erodes your identity, and slowly convinces you that you are the problem. They appear confident, charming, even powerful, but behind that mask lies a dangerous void. This video will help you recognize the psychological traps used by narcissists before it's too late. Because if you keep ignoring these red flags, they won't just manipulate you, they'll consume you. Stay till the end, because we're going to dismantle the illusion they build around you and reveal the inner pattern that keeps drawing you toward their chaos. The most dangerous threat to the self is not the obvious enemy, but the smiling face that hides the predator. A narcissist does not enter your life with chaos. They arrive with perfection. Their presence radiates charm, certainty, and seductive self-possession. Their words are tailored with surgical precision, not to connect with your soul, but to bypass your defenses. They don't seek to understand you. They scan you. Not with empathy, but with strategy. The moment they meet you, they begin assembling a mask designed entirely from your unspoken desires, your emotional weaknesses, and the image of what you most want to believe about yourself. Their magnetism is not accidental. It's carefully constructed. It appeals not to your highest wisdom, but to the forgotten child within, the one still longing for validation or recognition. The narcissist speaks in the language of your unmet needs. They present themselves as your reflection. If you seek stability, they appear grounded. If you long for passion, they burn with it. If you crave meaning, they perform depth. But none of it is real. What they project is not substance, but camouflage. It is not who they are. It is who you need them to be. This illusion is sustained by a mastery of surface. The narcissist is often skilled in aesthetics, status, power, and words that inspire awe. They may carry success like a shining sword, but it is forged from the hunger to be adored, not the desire to be authentic. Their eyes often sparkle with intelligence, yet they are mirrors, not windows. When you look into them, you do not see a soul. You see yourself reflected back in flattering form. This is the seduction. The narcissist doesn't just make you like them, they make you like yourself in their presence. That is why the bond feels so deep, so immediate, so fated. It is not love. It is manipulation disguised as destiny. The brilliance of the narcissist is their timing. They give you attention when you are vulnerable, validation when you are unsure, and affection when you are lonely. They offer certainty when the world feels uncertain. But these gifts are not given. They are traded. The currency is your trust, your loyalty, your admiration, and once you give them these things, they believe they own you. They smile not because they care, because they've captured. In their mind, charm is a net. Every compliment is bait. Every gaze, every word, every gesture is designed to pull you deeper into the performance they are staging. They perform vulnerability with grace. They may share stories of trauma, heartbreak, or betrayal, not to heal but to bond. These revelations create the illusion of intimacy. You feel privileged to be let into their pain. Their past is often a carefully curated mythos, not a raw confession. It serves a purpose: to build rapport, to generate empathy, and to plant the seed that you must protect them, rescue them, complete them. But what they truly want is not your care. It is your submission. They are not wounded. They are calculating. They exploit the language of suffering to build a fortress of sympathy. And once inside, they begin to rewrite the terms of the relationship. In this initial stage, the narcissist is intoxicating. You feel seen, valued, even elevated. You may believe you've found someone rare, someone profound, someone who finally understands. But what you're feeling is not recognition. It is entrapment. Their words echo the deepest chambers of your psyche, not because they share your truth, but because they have studied your silence. And from that silence, they construct the most dangerous illusion of all, that they are the answer to your longing. The moment you believe that, you are no longer looking outward. You are staring directly into the mask they have created, believing it to be real. A narcissist does not conquer with brute force. They seduce with reflection. Their most powerful weapon is the illusion of resonance, the uncanny sense that you've met someone who finally sees you, understands you, and vibrates at your frequency. But what you are experiencing is not shared truth. It is psychological mimicry. They become your echo, reflecting your thoughts, your passions, your struggles, even your spiritual longings. And it feels miraculous, it feels destined. But it is not fate, it is strategy. This reflection is not empathy. It is predation. They observe you like a map, scanning for emotional openings and symbolic cues. What makes your eyes brighten, your tone soften, your guard drop? They do not ask who you are, they extract it from the details you never realized you were revealing. Your stories, your body language, your style, your doubts. Then, they wear your identity back to you like a tailored garment stitched with precision and charm. It is not connection, it is replication. You may feel like you've never been understood so deeply, so quickly. They claim to share your worldview, your dreams, even your wounds. They speak of synchronicity, of soul ties, of purpose. They align themselves with your values and ideals with such accuracy it feels cosmic. But they are not your reflection because they know your truth. They are your reflection because they've erased their own. What looks like alignment is imitation. What feels like fate is fabrication. This echoing is not benign. It is the foundation of their control. Once they've mirrored you, they create emotional dependence. You start to equate their presence with your own sense of being seen, loved, understood. You begin to feel incomplete without their validation, their attention, their gaze that seems to penetrate to your soul. But that gaze is not rooted in love. It is surveillance. They are not witnessing your essence. They are monitoring your weaknesses. The mimicry becomes a form of psychological possession. The more they reflect you, the more you internalize them as essential to your identity. You begin to abandon your intuition, your independence, even your discomfort, because you fear losing this person who gets you like no one else ever has. And in this abandonment, you begin to lose yourself. You may find yourself adopting their language, echoing their ideas, even defending their contradictions. This is not love. It is psychological colonization. They mirror not only your beauty, but your brokenness. They adopt your wounds not to heal with you, but to entangle with you. If you have felt abandoned, they will reveal a history of betrayal. If you have felt unseen, they will confess to having been invisible. But their pain is not shared, it is performed. It serves a purpose, to bind you to them through the illusion of mutual suffering. They mirror your vulnerability until you believe healing is something that must happen within the relationship. But healing is not their goal. Their goal is control. At this stage, the narcissist is no longer a person in your eyes. They have become a part of your internal world. You seek their approval instinctively. You fear their disapproval like a wound. You begin to anticipate their reactions before you act, self-editing your thoughts, your needs, your boundaries. This is not harmony. It is programming. The narcissist has replaced your inner voice with theirs, and the more you ignore the subtle discomfort growing in your gut, the louder their voice becomes. But it speaks in your language, uses your memories, and manipulates your empathy. It convinces you that their chaos is your responsibility, their moods your failure, their love your salvation. And because they mirrored you so completely in the beginning, you doubt yourself when that mirror begins to distort. You tell yourself they must be struggling, they must be hurting, you must be misinterpreting. You wait for them to return to the reflection you first saw. But that reflection never truly existed. It was a mask shaped in your image, designed not to love you, but to possess your trust long enough to erase the boundaries that once protected your mind. A narcissist does not destroy you in one blow. They dismantle you slowly, in stages, in loops, through a pattern that at first feels like love, then turns into confusion, and eventually becomes psychological warfare. It begins with idealization, the phase where you are placed on a pedestal so high it feels divine. They flood you with admiration, attention, and awe. You are their muse, their soulmate, their missing piece. Their words are honeyed affirmations, their gaze unwavering, their affection overwhelming. You feel chosen, adored, almost sanctified. It's not just that they like you, it's that they seem to worship you. But this is not genuine reverence. It is investment. The narcissist is not in love with you. They are in love with the control they believe they are securing through this worship. This is the emotional hook. The idealization phase is a construction, a fantasy where you play the central role. You are perfect in their eyes, not because they see your soul, but because you are still a projection of their need. Your flaws are ignored, your hesitations rationalized, your individuality absorbed into the myth they are creating. In this phase, the narcissist appears to need you deeply. They speak of how you've changed their life, how they've never met anyone like you, how you complete them. These sentiments are not real, they are tools. They're crafted to bind you with emotional intensity so that when the devaluation begins, you won't be able to escape without feeling like you are betraying something sacred. The shift is never sudden. It's subtle, a slight change in tone, a withheld compliment, an unexpected criticism disguised as concern. You start noticing contradictions, words that don't match actions, tenderness followed by coldness. And yet, you dismiss them, you rationalize. Because they made you feel so valuable in the beginning, you assume they must still care. You tell yourself they're stressed, tired, or going through something. But what's really happening is that the mask is slipping. The narcissist begins to resent your humanity, the very things that make you real. They didn't idealize you because they loved your essence. They idealized you because they believed you would reflect theirs. And when you fail to live up to the image they built, they begin to punish you for it. This is the devaluation phase. Here the adoration fades. The warmth cools. Your words are dismissed. Your needs become annoyances. They begin to chip away at your sense of worth through small, psychological cuts, sarcastic comments, passive-aggressive jabs, subtle exclusions. You begin to question yourself. You wonder if you are being too sensitive. You doubt your intuition. This is by design. The narcissist's goal is to destabilize your inner world, so you turn to them for reassurance. They create the wound and present themselves as the only salve. They never truly soothe. They just offer temporary relief, followed by another round of emotional volatility. And then, when they sense you pulling away, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they may return briefly to the idealization. They will shower you again with warmth, apologies, dramatic promises, even tears. They may say they can't live without you, that they see their faults, that they want to change. This intermittent reinforcement is not growth. It is a cycle. It is meant to keep you off balance, addicted to the highs, paralyzed by the lows. You begin to chase the version of them that once made you feel so alive, but that version is gone because it was never real. And so the pattern continues. Love becomes control, kindness becomes confusion, closeness becomes captivity. The longer you stay in this cycle, the more you begin to internalize the narrative they impose. That you're too much or not enough. That you're lucky to have them. That no one else will understand you like they do. That your pain is your fault. This erosion of self does not happen overnight. It is gradual, like a tide that slowly washes away the edges of your identity. You begin to second, guess your voice, mistrust your emotions, and suppress your needs for the sake of keeping peace. But the peace is false, and it's built on your silence. The narcissist thrives not in connection. In control masked as intimacy. The moment you stop serving their illusion, you become the threat they must diminish. The most insidious form of psychological control is not one that locks your body, but one that distorts your mind. The narcissist's most powerful tactic is not rage, withdrawal, or even betrayal. It is gaslighting. A calculated manipulation of your perception, your memory, and your confidence in your own reality. This form of psychological warfare is subtle, precise, and executed over time until you no longer trust your own thoughts. You begin to exist in a mental fog, where your internal compass no longer points to truth, and your sense of self becomes unstable. This is not confusion. It is engineered distortion. It begins with small denials. You mention something they did or said, and they respond with confusion or amusement. That never happened. You're being dramatic. You're imagining things. At first, these moments feel like misunderstandings, like perhaps you misheard or misread the situation. You give them the benefit of the doubt. But these contradictions increase. You begin to notice how your version of events is consistently invalidated. You're told you overreacted, misremembered, or worse, fabricated. What's actually happening is not a difference of opinion. It's a systematic effort to undermine your trust in your own perception. Gaslighting is not merely lying. It's psychological sabotage. The narcissist doesn't just deny what happened. They replace it with a false narrative that centers their innocence and frames your discomfort as instability, will rewrite conversations, change timelines, and inject new motives into your actions to justify their responses. You find yourself arguing with someone who seems confident, rational, while you feel defensive, scattered, uncertain. This inversion is intentional. The narcissist seeks not to win an argument, but to disorient you so thoroughly that you begin to defer to their version of reality rather than your own. As the gaslighting escalates, you begin to internalize their voice as your own. You hear their words in your mind, correcting your instincts, shaming your reactions, questioning your clarity. You begin to edit yourself preemptively. You hesitate to speak up because you fear being told you're wrong again. You start keeping notes, checking messages, collecting proof, just to remind yourself that you're not losing your mind. But even the evidence begins to feel uncertain, as if your mind itself is becoming an unreliable narrator. This is psychological erosion at its deepest. The narcissist has not just infiltrated your emotional world. They've taken over your cognitive terrain. In this fractured state, you become more pliable. You look to the narcissist for validation because you no longer trust your own judgment. You ask them whether what you felt was appropriate, whether your memory is accurate, whether you're being fair. They present themselves as the voice of reason, as the calm center around which your chaos revolves. But the chaos is not yours. It is theirs, projected onto you and then used as proof of your supposed instability. This dynamic keeps you trapped in a loop of self-doubt, dependency, and emotional paralysis. You no longer know who you are without their interpretation of you. Gaslighting also isolates you from others. The narcissist may subtly suggest that your friends are a bad influence, that your family doesn't understand you, that others are out to sabotage your relationship. They create an echo chamber where only their voice echoes back. The fewer outside perspectives you have, the more convincing their version of reality becomes. And in this isolation, they tighten their grip, not by force, but by becoming the only lens through which you view yourself. Your emotions are questioned, your pain is minimized, your truth is constantly under siege. This cognitive manipulation is not accidental. It is a technique often learned through patterns of power and dominance, honed over time, and justified by a profound lack of empathy. The narcissist does not see your mind as sacred. They see it as a space to be colonized, rewritten, and used as a mirror for their own superiority. The more you lose confidence in your perception, the more control they gain. And the irony is cruel. You may reach a point where you defend them to others, explain away their inconsistencies, and take responsibility for their cruelty. Because you've come to believe that you're the one who's broken, the one who's too emotional, too sensitive, flawed to see clearly. There is perhaps no deeper illusion in the relationship with a narcissist than the quiet, burning belief that you can save them. It is not just love that binds you. It is hope. Hope that your loyalty, your patience, your empathy, your enduring kindness might reach the wounded core that they keep hidden. You sense their pain, even when they deny it. You glimpse their vulnerability, even when it's buried under arrogance. And so you wait, you forgive, you rationalize. Because somewhere deep inside, you've come to believe that if you love them hard enough, long enough, unconditionally enough, they will change. But this belief is not compassion. It is captivity wrapped in idealism. You are not imagining their brokenness. It is real. Beneath the grandiosity and manipulation, the narcissist is wounded, often profoundly. But the wound is not your responsibility. The pain that shaped them into who are did not give you a mandate to repair them. Yet many people who are empathic, intuitive, or deeply loving begin to internalize the role of the healer. You believe that your insight gives you power. You believe that if you can just say the right thing, respond the right way, not trigger their defenses, you will unlock the version of them that you briefly saw in the beginning. The version that loved you, adored you, cherished you. But that version was a mask, constructed to bind you emotionally. It was not the foundation of who they are, but a performance designed to gain control. The desire to redeem them often comes from your own unconscious wounds. Perhaps somewhere in your history, love was tied to responsibility. Perhaps you were taught, through experience or trauma, that love means carrying someone else's pain. And so the narcissist awakens in you not only affection, but a mission. You don't just want them to be better. You need them to be better, because their healing becomes the proof that your love is real, powerful, meaningful. But love is not alchemy. You cannot transmute another person's character by sacrificing your own boundaries. This belief in redemption is not just noble, it is dangerous, because the narcissist senses it. They see in you not only devotion, but weakness. They understand that as long as you believe they can be fixed, you will remain. You will absorb the damage, excuse the outbursts, endure the cold silences and cruel words, because you have made their healing your purpose. But they do not want to be healed. They want to be obeyed. They want control, not transformation. And every time you forgive without change, every time you stay after betrayal, every time you lower your standards out of compassion, you confirm to them that their manipulation works. And so the cycle deepens. You give more, they take more. You shrink to preserve the relationship, and they expand into the space you've abandoned. Over time, you begin to equate love with struggle. You tell yourself that real love isn't easy, that all relationships have challenges, that you just need more patience. But the truth is, you are not in a relationship. You are in a dynamic of power and dependence. And your belief in their redemption has become the very thing that chains you to your own suffering. You may try to confront them, to express your needs clearly, to draw boundaries. But those boundaries will be tested, dismissed, or turned against you. They may accuse you of being controlling, selfish, ungrateful. And because you still believe in their potential, you listen. You wonder if maybe you are the problem. You feel guilt for even thinking of leaving. After all, you know their history, you know their trauma. And who will love them if not you? But this question is a trap. It is not your job to be the sole witness to their humanity while they refuse to acknowledge yours. The truth is, redemption cannot happen without accountability. And accountability requires the presence of conscience, of empathy, of a willingness to reflect. The narcissist lacks this capacity not because they are incapable of emotion, because they have built a fortress of ego around their deepest wounds. A fortress that no amount of your love can penetrate. And every moment you spend trying to break through that fortress is a moment spent abandoning yourself. The person you are trying to save is not drowning. They are watching you drown and blaming you for being in the water. The greatest illusion, crafted by the narcissist, is not their charm, their love, or even their need for you. It is the illusion that your suffering is noble, that your endurance has meaning, that if you just hold on long enough, things will return to how they once were. But what once was never truly existed. It was a facade, a hook to bind you, a performance designed to conquer your mind before you realize the cost. What you are fighting to preserve is not a relationship, but a prison disguised as intimacy. And the more you ignore the red flags, the emotional manipulation, the gaslighting, the cycles of abuse masked as affection, the deeper you sink into a war you were never meant to win. The narcissist does not destroy you with force. They destroy you with confusion. They make you question your worth, your memory, your reality, until the person you were begins to fade, and still, they demand more understanding, more forgiveness, more silence. But this is not love. This is consumption. And the price of your compassion becomes your identity. The only way out is through awakening, an unflinching gaze into the truth you've been trained to avoid. They will not change. You cannot fix them. Your pain is not proof of love, and your silence is not peace. To reclaim your life, you must break the spell. You must walk away, not because you no longer care, but because you finally care about yourself enough to choose freedom over illusion, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over self-sacrifice. The path to healing begins the moment you stop explaining their behavior and start honoring your own reality. Nothing and nobody is worth the slow erasure of your soul.